Hi, this is Lori and welcome to my series on the Pico W. This is part 2 of the LED set of episodes, and we're going to finish up working with the 7-segment display. All right, a reminder of the circuit we had in part 1. We have our 7-segment display connected through current limiting resistors into 8 pins on our Pico W. Now, to form the digits 0 through 9, we need to figure out which of the segments needs to be turned on to get that particular digit. So this table here shows which segments need to be on to form a 0, to form a 1, to form a 2, and the segments as they're labeled here, A through G, and then the decimal point as well. Now, to form the digits, we never turn the decimal point on, so we're not using that one in this episode. So you can see how they look here as you go along, and you'll notice that I have A through F on here too. So here's the letter A, here's a lowercase b, a C, a D, an E, and an F. So we can form some of the letters with the 7-segment display, just not all of them. And it is interesting that A through F works. So you can actually display hexadecimal numbers using a 7-segment display, because you can add in the A through F to do that. So that's kind of fun. But in the next program, what we're going to do is just loop through the numbers 0 through 9 and see how that looks. For our first program, we'll loop through the numbers 0 to 9. Our setup is pretty similar to what we had before. We'll set up the segments A through G and the decimal point, although we won't be using that, so could have technically left it out, I guess. We'll make a list of them in the order that we want to use, and then I'll make a list of lists for the 9 or 10, it should be 10 numbers that we're going to loop through. I could have concluded in here the A through F, and then we could have looped through those as well, but I just decided to do the numbers. We'll have a display character function so we can display the digit. So this will simply just find the correct list for that digit, and then provide the appropriate value, either a 0 or 1, to form the digit that we asked for. Make a quick function just to clear the display completely out, and we'll have a delay time. How long do we want the digit to display when we're doing the counting? We'll use try and except, as we have several times now. And in our while true loop, we'll loop through 0 to 9. We'll display that character, sleep the delay, and then we'll clear everything out, and then we'll count backwards. So here's our range going in reverse, and we'll count down, we'll clear the display, and we'll keep looping through that until we do a keyboard interrupt. All right, so let's let this one go. Everything looks good. Yeah. So the way I'm doing this, I'm turning on all the segments needed to form a digit almost simultaneously, as close to simultaneously as we can do. And that's important. If I'm going to do it this way, that I have it coded, and then I think most people would agree that you really need all these resistors to protect each of the 8 LEDs that's in the display. The next step for us is to figure out how could we make this a little bit simpler and reduce the number of resistors that we're using, and then use a kind of persistence of vision. Move so quickly that we're only turning on one LED at a time, but we're moving so fast that to our eye we see the whole digit, even though we're technically not running any more than one segment at a time. And so that's where we're headed next. This is the new layout we're going to use. I'm not going to just, now we're going to go directly from one of our pins to our Pico. And you can see I just replaced the resistors, the 8 resistors, with a connecting wire. Obviously, if I'd started this way, I would have just went directly to each of the pins and not through this elaborate path. But I've already got those wires in place, so that's all I'm doing here is just making it connect directly to a GPIO pin. And then I'm putting one resistor here on the common pin down to ground. So since this is a common cathode 7-segment, all connected to ground through this resistor. So this will be my current limiting resistor, and my intention is to only light one LED at a time, but I'm going to do it so fast that persistence of vision will make you think that I'm lighting all of them at the same time. And so we have to figure out, we have to have it on for enough time that you see it, but not so much that I can't go through all the other segments and turn them on if I need to and have you think that they're all on at the same time. And we'll use the potentiometer I have hooked up here to one of the ADC pins. We'll be able to adjust that timing to see the impact. And when does it turn into persistence of vision? What speed? It's pretty fast. It has to go pretty fast for it to work, but you can kind of play with it and see what it takes. So we'll do two programs, one where we don't use the potentiometer at all, and then one where we do. So we'll first focus on just getting it set up to display those digits. Now this is the first program we'll use to display the digits with just the one resistor using persistence of vision. The setup is all the same. Still have all our LEDs, same lists. What we need to change is how we're displaying the character. So I've added a parameter to our display character function, and that's how long do we want to have the character, the digit, on in milliseconds. So half a second is the default I have up here. Then we'll pick up what is the pattern for the digit that we want to display. Then we'll start the clock ticking, and then we'll display it. We'll run through this loop that's going to turn on the segments that we need on and off very quickly to form the digit for as long as we need to cover that display time. Once we exceed the display time, then we'll end the function and move on to the next part of the code. So you can see, I think it's a nice approach. It seems to work for me. There may be better ways to do this. I started to view a lot of people who talked about this on YouTube, and I did find that some of the people were using just one resistor, and I think kind of claiming they were doing this persistence of vision, but it didn't really look like that, and you could kind of tell because you'd see that if it was a 1, it would be brighter, and if it was an 8, it would be less bright. And I don't think they were still turning on the LEDs simultaneously. They weren't really looping through them, and so I ended up writing my own code to do that, and so this is how I came about it. And I found that I needed to have each segment on in a digit for about 2500 microseconds for it to really form and look like a digit to me. So that's how I got to that. And we'll play around with this number in the next code using our potentiometer. So everything else is the same. We're just going to count up to 9 and down from 9 and keep looping. All right, so let's get this set up. Looks like I lost connection to my Pico. It's back again, and let's run it. And yeah, I think you can see it. Now you can actually see quite a bit of flicker. You can't see the flicker on the I'm looking down at my monitor. You can't see it by your eye, but you can definitely see some of the flicker. So you can tell I'm not turning them on simultaneously. But you can actually see the digit. And I think this one really works where we really are using one resistor. That one resistor is only trying to provide current limiting capacity for one LED at a time, the way my code works. So that's how I went about it to do it with persistence of vision. All right, let's go on to the potentiometer code so we can mess around with this a little bit more. For our final program, we'll we'll use our potentiometer to control that scanning speed. So in the last one, we used a scanning speed, is what I'm calling it, of 2500 microseconds. But this is kind of how I figured it out, by putting this potentiometer onto our circuit, and then using that to control the scanning speed, and seeing where did I really get to the point that the persistence of vision started to work, and I really only saw a particular digit. So our setup's all the same until we get to the potentiometer, which we have to set up on one of the ADC pins. I picked ADC 0, and that's GPIO 26. I also created this scale function. It's like the map function for those who've programmed Arduino. It just allows me to scale the value I'm getting out of the potentiometer into a value for time for the scanning speed. So X will be the potentiometer, and Y is going to be the time in microseconds that we'll set for the scanning, I should say. And then we need to update our display function to now include the scanning speed that we want. We'll have that be a parameter rather than fixed, as we did before. So you can see down here we'll add scan speed to our sleep time as we're looping through the segments to form a digit. And in this one, I'm just going to turn on the segments for 8 because that uses the most segments. So we won't go through the digits. We'll just use the digit 8, and we'll display it for half a second, and the scan speed will come from reading the potentiometer with this U16 function, which means the potentiometer, it should be can theoretically, read between 0 and 535. I found that it never gets down to 0, so I put 200 as the lower limit, and I put 65,000 as the upper. And then we'll go from 0 to 10,000 microseconds. And we'll display character 8, and we'll print that same speed. And that's one of the reasons why I kind of made this display for a half second, so it wouldn't get too crazy when we printed this out. So we can kind of see where that persistence of vision really kicks in. All right, let's kick it off. All right, so I have it right now. It's set at what I think is actually a pretty good timing for persistence of vision. Well, let's take it back up all the way to about 10,000. And I think you can now see, it doesn't film great, sorry about that, but you can now see that it's flashing a lot. It's not obvious that it's an 8. And this is kind of how I did it. I tweaked it a little bit and look to see if it was really starting to form a digit. Tweak it some more down. Okay, it's getting a little better. Tweak it some more. And that's when, to my eye, directly, right around 2500, I started to not see the flicker anymore. I mean, you could certainly go a little faster as well. And you definitely don't see it anymore. So, that's how I came up with the scanning speed that I used in the first program. And that's my approach to lighting these with just a single resistor, never having on more than one segment at a time, so a single resistor should work. I'm curious if other people have better ways of doing this. It's just me messing around and trying to teach myself some of this. So if you have a suggestion, I'd very much appreciate you sharing it in the comments. And with that, that will end this episode, and I want to thank you for watching.